Sweet. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us on today's Zoom workshop with Jamas Creative. We're teaming up with Luke Mocke, CEO of Mentorli. We're super excited with this because Luke actually worked for LinkedIn, so you're getting an insider look on how to use LinkedIn to your advantage. But if you have any questions throughout Luke's little presentation, let us know in the chat. Leave your questions in the chat, and then we'll go through and answer them after Luke shares some of his super sweet information on leveraging LinkedIn. So yeah, we'll turn the time over to you, Luke.
Hey, thank you so much, Josh. Appreciate it. And Chris and Nora, so cool to be with you here today. I think given that it's 4th of July, we're still celebrating. If honestly, you know what? Check this out. We're right here by the lake. And so there's probably it's going to be a smaller group today, just because everyone's out on holiday, which is great. Which means we can talk to each other a lot. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. So please feel free to engage. I thought what might be most helpful is if I could give you a little bit of background on myself and how I came to work at LinkedIn and then start a company that helps people land jobs through their network. And then based on that, I can give some tips and advice for how you can too. So I guess very basically, I can let me just share my screen with you real quick. Here we go. So this is a little bit of a background on me. I grew up in South Africa. That's my brother and myself over there. Most of our lives were spent outdoors. We grew up close to the bridge, so close to the sea, and then moved inland later on. I guess my ticket to the United States, which I spent some time in the Bay Area, now I'm staying in Utah, was rugby. I ended up getting a scholarship to come and play rugby for Brigham Young University. And I love this photo because it doesn't depict reality. It looks like I've just beaten this guy really well over here, and he's crying on the ground. But what you don't know is I come and somebody comes right from the side and smashes me right after this. If you look at the video, it's quite embarrassing. But it looks great. So we include the picture here. But ended up, I guess, coming to BYU, focusing on rugby for the most part, and getting to the end of my time at school and realizing that I didn't have the network that most people had coming out of school. Maybe if you've grown up in the United States and had an uncle that worked for a cool company, or an auntie that was a CEO and she could just get you right in. I didn't have that. All of my family was back in South Africa. And so I became pretty worried about what my prospects were going to be after school. And so I started reaching out on LinkedIn to a bunch of people and asking if they could help me get a job at their company. Probably because of my outreach, didn't receive a ton of responses, but one person was willing to help me understand what the culture was like at LinkedIn, the company that I wanted to work for. They helped me understand, I guess, what the interview process was like. They helped me give me tips on how to set myself up for success. They ended up sending my resume back to me over 10 times. So that it would look good. And then when the time came, they referred me to that open position at LinkedIn. And by the time I had that conversation with the recruiter, it was just such a natural conversation that I ended up landing the job. When I got to LinkedIn, eventually felt so grateful that I'd been given the opportunity that I started putting my name out there to folks and saying, hey, if you're interested in landing a job at the company, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. And the response that I received was incredible. There were literally hundreds of people that reached out, and I had to create a process around how I manage these folks and mentored and referred them into open positions. through the process, ended up referring tons of people and got recognized as LinkedIn's global top referrer. So it was this cool experience for me that, one, just taught me the value of being able to, give back and say thank you through my actions. But two, it helped me realize that there was this real power to having a champion or a mentor, and then getting a referral to the position of your choice. So many people, I see these posts all the time, and I just cringe inside on LinkedIn, where they're like, I've applied to 1,000 jobs, or I've applied to 100 jobs, or whatever it is, and I haven't got one response back from the recruiters. And the reason for that is because they haven't leveraged their network, or they haven't leveraged a person within that company to kind of give them the lay of the land and end up referring them. That's literally how companies work nowadays. Is 30 to 50% of their hires come from referrals, and they plan on that. And so if you're not, applying as a referral, your chances are messed. So anyways, I learned about this power, and it was actually one of the people that I had mentored, and he's not my brother. You can see him in this picture. It looks like my brother. I guess I just need a tall blonde guy in my life at all times. But he ended up, he was one of my mentees, and he was looking for a job at LinkedIn too. I got him an interview, and he said, this is such a cool process that you're putting people through. Let's make it into a platform. And so we made it into this platform, which is Mentorli, and essentially the whole goal of it is to help people land a job with a built-in network, and giving them the opportunity to get referred and increase their chances of landing a job that way. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and we're scaling the company, and things are going pretty well because the process works. Yeah, I think I'll pause there. If there are any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer and kind of give you an idea. Otherwise, I'm happy to go into some of my tips and tricks for landing a job through your network. Let's see, and Josh and Matt Mackenzie, if it's okay for you, I mean, just since it's a small group here, if we could just skip putting it in the chat, and if you wanted to unmute yourself and just ask the question, that'd be great.
Hi, Luke and Josh.
Hey, Nora.
And Chris. I have a question. When you're looking for a mentor, I'm in mid-career. I've worked for 2 successful startups. I've now been put out of work due to COVID. And it's a little harder as you get a little bit more advanced in your career. Is there a balance? Do you have to have a mentor? We think of mentors as someone older and wiser sometimes, and maybe that's a stereotype. Can you talk about that? Because honestly, I feel like I can learn a lot from folks that might be somewhat junior in their career, but can bring more knowledge in other areas to me.
Yeah, Nora, this is a fantastic question, and I think the roadblock that people have with mentoring all the time is that they think that it has to be the sage, this older and wiser person that can help them through their career. I think of mentoring very differently than that. The way that I think of mentoring is I have many mentors for many different things, and I don't have one mentor that's kind of my guiding light. So if I wanted to get a job at LinkedIn, I would go to someone that has the job that I want, and I would get them to mentor me in. If I wanted to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow, I would go to someone that knows how to shoot a bow and arrow, and I wouldn't go to the world champion or anything like that. While that would be great, I would just go to someone that knows the basics, right? And then you can work your way up to that. And so the way that I think of mentors is that it's for a specific purpose, one, and then two, it's someone that actually knows what they're talking about, and it's not kind of a jack of all trades type of situation. So I think when you're thinking about jumping back into the workforce, I would think about a mentor less as a general career advice mentor, and I would identify a couple key companies that you would like to work for, make a list, and then go and look in your network. Is there anyone that fits or works at one of these companies? Great, you can reach out to them and start talking to them. But then the beauty of LinkedIn, and this kind of comes down to some of my tips, is that you can see second and third degree connections. And the reason why they do that is so that you can get an introduction to those mentors. So if you see that, you go to, say, Google is the company that you wanted to work at. If you go to Google's company page, you're going to see all of the employees. You click on employees, and then there's a filter that will allow you to say, all right, I want first and second degree connections. And you see if you know any of those people. And if you have to go to second degree connections, then what you would say to them is, hey, I'm looking to get a job at Google. Would you mind introducing me to so-and-so? It looks like you know them. And that's the way that you would get your foot in the door. But, especially if you're, I guess, the level set, if you're going to be applying to a startup or a tech company in any way, you got to know that 30 to 50% of their hires come from referrals. It's their biggest source of hire, and they prioritize those in a massive way because they want to do things as fast as possible and they trust their employees. And so you have to apply as a referral if you're going to go to those companies.
Great point. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, Nora. Any other questions that you're wondering about, Chris? Nora, great. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe I can take you through the process that I would go through. I mean, you tell me. I mean, Chris, Nora, are you more looking to improve your LinkedIn presence, or are you looking to actually find a job? It sounds like, Nora, you're in the job market, so you're looking for a job right now. What would be most helpful for you? I'll tell you a couple of things that I can talk about here. One, I can talk about how to improve your LinkedIn presence and just grow your network. Two, I can talk about how, like, the process that I would walk through, knowing what I know now, working at LinkedIn and for Mentorli, how to land a job through your network. Or I can talk through just general tips for your online social presence.
I would love to hear how you would land the job. I mean, I've done a lot of training, and a lot of really good people are really offering their time, and it's really nice to get up to speed. And a lot of people will say the same information packaged differently, but I've not heard someone say, look, if I was doing this today, this is how I would approach it. And as an insider, that would be tremendously helpful to me.
You bet. Chris, yeah, what about you? What would be most helpful for you? Oh, it looks like you're on mute. Sorry.
Okay, how to use LinkedIn as a better tool? I mean, I'm actively looking, and I'm doing a lot of data mining, shall we say, for leads and things like that. But yeah, sometimes I can send out 50 resumes before I get a response and things like that. Or trying to do network connections and things like that with various organizations. It can be very frustrating, to say the least.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, I can totally help with that. So I think the biggest thing with using LinkedIn, the first mistake that people make is that they don't have a purpose when they use it. And they're kind of like, they look at all the features, which there are thousands of features on LinkedIn. And you like, some people try to use them all, or they use one or more sporadically. And so it honestly ends up hurting you more than it's helping you. And so I guess the advice that I have for everyone is that you got to start with your purpose. And you got to understand why you're on LinkedIn that day or that time. And then if you understand that, everything else starts to fit into place. So I'll go through this quick process over here. And Nora, I think this is going to help you most. And then, after that, I can talk through some like actionable things that you can start doing on your LinkedIn profile to improve it. So so this is the process that that I would go through today if I were looking for a job. So the first thing, and this comes down to purpose, is that you've got to think about deeply what you want in your next place. So you know, this is things like, how many hours do you want to work a week? How many, you know, where do you want to work? Do you want it to be an online job, a remote job, in person? You want to think about what type of work that you want to be doing, and really just make an extensive list of that criteria. Once you have that list, then it narrows down the types of companies that you would be eligible to work for if you hit those criteria. So then, you know, from that list, you can start to, just from your general knowledge, make a list of companies that fit the criteria of the company that you, or of the role that you would want to get. Once you have that list of companies, then you narrow that list down with informational interviews. So if I was going out right now, I'd have my list of companies in front of me, and then I would go, okay, you know, if Google is the first company that I wanted to work for, I would go to LinkedIn, I would search for Google, I would look for employees that work at Google, I would see if there's anyone within my network that works at Google, you know, that I could talk to. If there was, great, I would say, you know, hey Josh, so like love looking at your content here on LinkedIn. Do you have 15 minutes to chat a little bit about your experience at Google? You're not asking them for a referral. You're not asking them to pass your resume anywhere, because that just turns people off, because it happens so much on LinkedIn. All you're asking is to learn a little bit more about their experience. And so with those, oh, we got someone else coming in here. So yeah, so with those interviews, all you're looking to do is learn a little bit more about the experience, because you want to see if the experience matches up with your criteria. What's going to happen is your list of companies starts to narrow, and eventually you're going to get to 2 or 3 companies that would be kind of your dream company, based on, you know, the types of the criteria that they fit. And so, you know, once you have that list, then you go back to those people that you've had interviews, like informational interviews with, and you create mentors out of them. And what I mean by that, you say to them, hey, based on our conversation, you know, I love what you had to say about Google. I think it would be a fantastic fit for my skill set and what I'm looking to do. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about the interview process? And then, you know, they can tell you a little bit more about the interview or the application process, and what you're driving to there. And I'll show you this in the last step here, is to get referred. The simple process of having a mentor internally and getting referred to their system, it's just, you know, you'll literally get that. They'll give you, all of these companies, they'll give you a referral link that you can do your application through. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to put in a good word with the manager. You have to get their link. Once you get that link and you have that mentor, that simple process can make you 15 times more likely to land the job than just a regular applicant. And so, you know, if you want to increase your chances that much at your top 2 or 3 dream companies, this is the process that you want to work through to do that. So really simple: pick criteria, make a list of the companies that fit that criteria, narrow it with interviews with people that work at those companies, create mentors out of those, you know, people that you're interviewing, and then drive towards getting referred at the end of the day. But don't rush any of these steps, because, you know, you rush it, the person doesn't respond to you, and you end up back at square one. So you want to really just take it slow. Slow is fast in this world. So Nora, that's the process that I would work through. Now, to your point, Chris, what I would do if I was, you know, wanting to apply some of this on LinkedIn, the first thing that you're going to want to do is just make sure that your profile is up to date and has the relevant information that you're going to need there. The reason why is because literally the most performed activity on LinkedIn is profile viewing. And so as soon as you reach out to someone, they're not just going to look at your message, but they're first going to go and look at your profile and see, is this someone that I want to talk to? And so if your profile is not up to date, if it looks like, sketchy in any way, they're not going to respond to your message. And so you want to update your profile. I'll give you, just before we go into Q&A, I'll give you a couple tips here. Whoops, I stopped the share. I'll give you a couple tips here to follow for updating your profile, because that's the number one thing that you're going to want to do. Oops. Before starting this process. And then, if there's anything specific that you guys wanted to learn, I'd be happy to go through that. So I'm just going to go to my profile because I've put a lot of work into it, and I think it has a couple of good actionable things that you can do. So the things that are going to make the biggest effect on whether somebody responds to you in those initial messages or not is kind of interesting. I don't like it, but this is the truth. It's your profile picture. And so, you don't have to have a professional profile picture, but it's the number one thing that affects it. And so you have to have a good profile picture. And so, getting a friend to come and take a nice photo with their new iPhone and blurring out the background is going to be a game changer. And so having a decent photo is key. The next thing that's going to affect it is your title. And so the important thing about a title is, one, the worst thing that you can do is waste this on saying that you're actively looking for jobs. That's the last thing that you want to do is say that you're actively looking for jobs in your title. This is an opportunity to tell people who you are and what you aspire to be. So for me, I'm currently working as the co-founder at Mentorli. But then what I tell people, because we're going to be everywhere, when I reach out to them in a message, when I comment, or when I like this is the phrase that shows up. I want people to know that I help leaders attract diverse talent at scale. And so, it's aspirational. It tells people what I do. It also gives them an idea of how they can engage with me if they reach back out to me. And so, Nora, if you, let's just say you were in sales at a startup, you could, or you wanted to be in sales at a startup, you would say something like, I help startups scale through, through sales, or I help startups scale through business development. So that's kind of what you want to aim for here, so that people know, okay, this person is reaching out to me because that's what they want to do.
Luke, can I ask a question about
that? Yeah, go
so
ahead.
You mentioned don't put in your subtitle that you're looking for work, which makes complete sense. There's a tag, I think it's relatively new, open to work, that you can put in. You can have recruiters just see it, or if you're out of work like I am, you can have everybody see it, and it makes you more people. I heard, and maybe this is off, please just tell me, and if it's off task for this session, it's fine. But I heard that if you use any kind of mention, or if LinkedIn's algorithm sees that you are currently not employed, that it makes you get pushed down to the bottom of the results if recruiters are looking for you. Do you know anything about that? Is that plausible? It would make sense, but it doesn't really help us, those of us who are, out of work due to COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So I honestly don't know. I don't think, and I've never heard that before, that it pushes you to the bottom of search results if you're out of work. I would always stretch, over here. So in your experience section, you're going to be saying when you were employed. I would always just keep my current role open, even if you're not employed. That's kind of my rule of thumb. I usually just keep it open there. So you don't have to close it off, because it shows that, you I mean, at least somebody's going to think if they come to your profile, hey, this person's actively heads down, you know, working in a role, and they're interested in me because they are genuinely interested in my company, not because they're desperate for another opportunity. That's the main thing that you don't want to signal through your profile, that you're desperate for an opportunity, because no one's going to help you because you're desperate. They're going to help you because they want to help you, or they feel like you're a good fit for the role because they're seeing benefit from the relationship. And so if you ever do want to show that you're open to new opportunities, I'm going to have to go back and look at this, but I believe it's in jobs. And then you would go, yeah, let me see. I got this thing in the manage alerts, manage job posts. I'm going to have to go back and see where you put that you're open to new opportunities, because I haven't.
I think it's under your profile. Or
you do it under your profile.
And they have 2 levels. You can just put the tag open for work, and that would only be seen by recruiters in the event, for example, if you didn't want your current employer to know you were looking, you're open to opportunities. And then they have this new one, I don't know, well, I think it's relatively new, where everyone who sees your profile will see it, and they actually kind of brand your picture with this sort of icon.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. I don't think that's a smart thing to do at all. But just to give you an idea of how that tag works, when you put that tag on your profile that you're open to new opportunities, only recruiters are going to see it, and that's sometimes how they search. And so they'll go ahead and they'll say, you know, I want a customer service representative in Utah with 5 to 10 up with 1,000 people, and then they're like, I can't look to 10,000 people, and then they'll say who's currently actively looking for a job, and so they'll put that search filter on it, and then they'll say, hey, there's only 100 people, and so that's how you show up in those search results, is open to new opportunities that way.
Can you use regular, Boolean search operators in LinkedIn, or you can't? It's got its own kind of proprietary search. Do you know? You must.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're just using the free version, you can't use Boolean search parameters, but with a lot of recruiters do use Boolean search, and the actual, it's called Recruiter. It's their product to search, all 700 million members on LinkedIn, and find, people that want to come and work at their company. So yeah, it's totally possible that way.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, you bet. So I guess just coming back to, I mean, the 2 biggest things, and this is strange, but this is how it is. The 2 biggest things that are going to affect whether you get a response on those messages is 1, your profile picture, and 2, the title that you have over here. So those are the 2 biggest things that I would focus on. A lot of people don't read the about section. It just happens like that. If you're going to do an about section, make it a story. Don't make it don't make it something that says, oftentimes it's like, I'm an experienced account representative with demonstrated history, and that's what everyone says, and so people just gloss right over it. If you're going to say that, rather just leave the about section out and let your experience talk for yourself. If you come down to experience here, the most important thing that you can do, just because not everyone works at a Fortune 500 company that everyone knows, the most important thing that you can do is add rich media. This is like photos, videos, website links for the places that you've worked, because that's how people are going to get to know you. So if you've worked for a place that has an explainer video on what they do, include that video over here. If you took a picture outside, so I wonder if I got it on mine. I think I removed these pictures because I wanted to focus over here. But if you're just standing outside the company, with a friend or with a coworker, or it's a picture at one of the company dues, then, this is a place that you would include that picture, because it shows people that you were there, what you did, maybe, it gives them a link to the website so that they can see what kind of company that you work for. This rich media is the most important thing to catch people's eyes in your experience section. I'll pause there. Those are just 3 quick tips that's going to help your response rates when you're following that process. But otherwise, yeah, I guess I'll turn it back over to Josh and Kenzie if you guys wanted to do a Q&A or something like that.
Luke, one thing I was wondering is like, because I know for me personally, it's like I own a marketing agency, and so I'm always trying to find ways to prevent making mistakes if possible. I guess, what are some of the good qualities of a mentee? Like, you've talked a little bit about like what to look for in a mentor and expectations, but like what are some best practices for someone that's looking for advice?
This is a fantastic question, Josh. So my sister, she's in the process of applying to the finance program at BYU at the moment. She really wants to get in, and so she came to me and she was like, "What do I do?" So I said, you got to get a mentor. You got to find someone on the inside that's going to be a part of the decision making process that can help coach you through what are the most important things that you're going to need to do. And so I happen to have someone in my network that was part of this process, and I introduced her. And then I said, what you have to do every single time that you talk to this person is whenever they give you advice, you're going to want to say, thank you so much. You write it down. You always have a notepad with you. You write it down. And then after the conversation, you go back and you do what they asked you to do as fast as possible. And then you send them a note to say and report back that you've done it. So for instance, if you're looking for a job, and the person says to you, hey, you're going to want to update your LinkedIn profile to say this, this, and this. You go back that day and you update your profile. And then you send them a note and say, my profile's looking so much better after your advice. Thank you so much. Check it out. And you send them a screenshot, just quickly like that. Thanks for the advice. That is the epitome of a good mentee, is someone that just applies the advice. And people love to give advice. People love to give feedback. And so if you really are showing that you're on top of it and you're listening to them and you want more, then they're going to continue to help you in a big way.
Thanks, man. Does anyone else have any questions at the moment for Luke?
Not right now.
This is David Slocum. Can you hear me?
Hey, David, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Good, good. Excited to be chatting to you.
Excellent. I actually just completed. I'm a career changer. I'm a former Salesforce.com admin, but I'm trying to get into contact tracing. I just got a certificate from online class, Johns Hopkins University, and there's I'm in Massachusetts, and they already did a mass hiring, like Partners in Health and a couple other places. So I'm kind of stuck because, obviously I'm open to new opportunities. But if somebody does a search, they're going to find the certificate. I've got a link to my certificate, but I don't have any experience in it. But it's not really a job where you need a lot of experience to be good on the phone, building relationships, active listening, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I guess is the question, how, what do you do next? How do you set yourself up for success in finding a job, or what exactly would you like to learn?
Yeah, I know I should be networking into the health industry, which I haven't done before. But in addition to that, how do I stand out? Because a lot of the people applying for these jobs don't have experience in contact tracing. It's not a new field, but it's in demand now with COVID-19. But the thing is that you got to know where they're hiring. And I am willing to relocate or work remotely, but it's I do searches on Google, Indeed, LinkedIn. There's 2 jobs in mass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I think it's a timing thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, the amount of jobs that are open is not represented by the amount of jobs that are posted online. And so if you're gonna find a contact tracing job, which is like probably a coveted position, I don't know a whole lot about contact tracing, but I'm assuming that a coveted position and that a lot of people are going to want it. It's not going to be posted for everyone to see, and so that's why you need an insider to be able to tell you when the position is coming open, to tell you how you might go about applying for the position if it's not going to be posted on Indeed or LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter, and to kind of give you a leg up in the process. So kind of going back to my original process, what I would do if I was you is I would make a list of all of the companies that would possibly hire a contact tracer. And then I would go through and have informational interviews with people at those companies that would be in a role that would somehow know if there was a need for that in the future or now, or how they were looking at growing a contact tracing team. That way, you gain two things. One, you gain an intimate knowledge of the company, so that by the time you actually do have an informational interview or an interview, you're a cut above all of the other folks. But then two, you actually are able to learn what the lay of the land is, and whether that'll be a company that you want to work at, and you'll be all the more passionate about it when you're interviewing and when you're chatting to them when the role does open up.
All right, Luke, I see what you're saying, but I used to be a recruiter. I know what they do when they're hiring people. They go within the company, they try to get inside referrals. Do you know somebody? Then they go to the recruiters. Then they go to the job boards. Job boards are last. I know that. So you have to find the sources before the job, because the jobs are out there. But the thing is contact tracing. I'm used to targeting hiring managers. Who's the hiring manager? You look to a director level person in a certain area. I mean, who's the hiring manager? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think this is important to call out. What I've found is that the hiring managers are actually nowadays with LinkedIn, because everyone becomes available to you, right? With LinkedIn, hiring managers are hit up so much that they've stopped responding to messages. And you might have found this, is you'll reach out to a hiring manager, and if you do get a response, it will be months later. The person typically just ghosts you. And so that's the difficult thing. If you find a company that is likely going to hire contact tracers in the future and that you want to work for, what I would do is I would go and search for that actual role. I would search for someone at that company that does contact tracing and that isn't a hiring manager. That way, that person can give you a powerful referral. They'll give you access to the hiring manager when the time comes. But they'll also be able to give you a lay of the land that a hiring manager wouldn't be able to, because they're unbiased. They don't have any skin in the game. But the hiring manager wants to either hire you or doesn't, and so they'll give you misinformation.
I see what you're saying. So bond with the contact tracers, and then that will hopefully get you a referral to someone who is hiring, or who will at least take a look at you. Good. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the way that I would go about it if I was you is one, you just got to make that list of the companies that are going to be hiring contact tracers. Then, you go and search on LinkedIn, and you can see the whole company list there, everyone that's linked their profile to the LinkedIn company page. And then you'll go and find contact tracers, find someone that you have something in common with. Oh, we both stay in this area, or, hey, I saw that we both went to this school. Find something that I have common with, and then you say, hey, notice we had these similarities, and I'm looking to make a transition into contact tracing. Would you be able to tell me a little bit more about your experience at this company? And that's like low barrier to entry. All they have to do is share their experience. They're not referring you. You're not asking them for a job. It's so easy that they tend to respond at a much higher rate. And so, once you get in contact with them, then you can talk to them a little bit about, whether it's feasible in the future to get a job at that company in contact tracing or not. And then if it is, great, hey, based on our conversation, would you be willing to refer me to an open role at your company? And then the person is often, over the moon. They'll say, yeah, I get a referral bonus.
Real scoop, so you're not spinning your wheels either, because they might not be hiring. Yeah, I got
100%. Yeah, 100%. You got it. Got it. Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Hey,
other
Luke,
questions? Oh, go ahead, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, can you give us a little background on Mentorli and your app? Tell us a little bit about the Mentorli app. And I think based on the types of questions we're getting today, I think learning a little bit more about the Mentorli app could be helpful.
Yeah, you bet, Josh. So what you guys might find interesting, we actually built Mentorli for this exact scenario. So what we've been doing is we've been building up a database of mentors within our app. So we have over 400 mentors now that are willing to mentor and refer you into open roles. So given that it's still early days, we only have 400 people. We may or may not have the role that you want. But essentially what you would do is you would come into the app, and I will, let me see if I've got, where is that? Here we go. I'll show you what it looks like. So you can just get it on the App Store or on the Google Play Store, pretty easy. But you would come in and there's a content section where you can come and get tips like we've talked about today, to do workshops, through different influencers that show you what best practices are for your resume, for your LinkedIn profile, for your interview process. And then after you've got some tips and you've learned from those workshops, you can come in and search a database of people that have explicitly put up their hand and said, hey, I'm willing to mentor and refer people into my organization. And then you would go to their profiles here on the search tab, and maybe you would search and you'd say, hey, I want all of the sales people that work in Texas. And then, would pull up a list of salespeople that work in Texas. And you can go and find someone that you relate with at a company that you want to work for, click on their profile and request mentoring. And that person could tell you what I'm, saying that you should go and ask for at these companies. They'll tell you about the culture. They'll tell you about the interview process. They'll tell you about, how to get referred, all of those different things. So this is kind of what somebody's profile looks like. You can link to their profile their LinkedIn profile if you wanted more information, but it shows you what they're offering. So Ricky, for example, he helps coach recent grads through the interview process and assist them by scheduling time with potential coworkers. Then his motivation, so you can see, okay, where is this person coming from? Someone helped me prepare and tailor every interaction to put myself in the best situation possible. So he wants to give back. And then, the preparation that you might do. So before reaching out to Ricky, you're probably going to want to go and look at the career side. So you're going to want to decide what job you want at Lucid. And then, you can request mentoring from there to get a leg up. And again, I'll really emphasize this. It's 15 times. It'll make you 15 times more likely if you got someone internally that can champion you, as well as a referral. And so it's a game changer for this process.
Thanks, Luke. So we're about up for time, but what's the best way for people because we're recording this Zoom workshop and we'll be sharing it on YouTube later on. So what's the best way, if anyone has any other questions related to this workshop, what's the best way for people to contact you?
Yeah, best way is, if it's to get a job, hit me up on Mentorli. So I have a profile on here too, so you can come in, download the app and contact me that way. If not, and I'd encourage everyone to do this anyways, just connect with me on LinkedIn too. I post fairly often and I'm pretty, I make myself pretty available. So if you shoot me a message, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have after this.
Excellent.
Sweet. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it, man. You're the man.
Yeah, you bet. It's been great chatting to everyone. Looking forward
Thanks very much.
Yeah, good luck in the job search. You guys are going to crush it. I have no doubt.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Chat to
Thank you,
soon.
Josh and
Bye.
Mackenzie.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Appreciate all your questions.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay,
Bye.
have a